now, the ripple effects from Friday's extraordinary clash between the Ukrainian and US presidents has extended through the weekend, with crisis talks in Europe culminating in new pledges from the UK and France. Volodymyr Zelensky received a very warm welcome from European leaders in London overnight.
The British Prime Minister told leaders at the emergency summit they need to continue support for Kyiv and meet a once-in-a-generation moment for the security of Europe. It comes as the White House continues its campaign against the Ukrainian leader, using US media appearances to call for him to go. Europe Bureau Chief Mazoe Ford has more from London.
The British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, emerged from the security summit in London of European leaders to say that we were at a crossroads and it was time to act. He said the UK, France and others would work together with Ukraine to come up with a plan to stop the fighting, and that they'd take that plan to the United States and move forward together. Keir Starmer said that there were 4 points to the plan: to keep military aid flowing and keep the economic pressure on Russia, to agree that a lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table for any discussions. He said that in the event of a peace deal, it was important to boost Ukraine's capabilities to defer future invasions and develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and guarantee peace for the future. Sir Keir Starmer then announced £1.6 billion, around $3.2 billion, to buy 5,000 air defence missiles for Ukraine. He said the UK would put boots on the ground and planes in the air. However, he said that the European leaders had discussed that while Europe can do the heavy lifting, they still need backing from the United States. So that relationship was still very, very important. During the press conference, Sir Keir Starmer was asked whether the European leaders at this summit, some 19 of them, discussed going it alone without the United States, and whether the United States was still a reliable ally. This is what Sir Keir Starmer had to say about that.
But I do not accept that the US is an unreliable ally. The US has been a reliable ally to the UK for many, many decades and continues to be. There are no two countries as closely aligned as our two countries, and our defence, our security and intelligence is intertwined in a way no two other countries are. So it's an important and reliable ally for us.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was warmly welcomed at the summit by all of the leaders. Afterwards, he left without speaking to the media and then boarded a helicopter for Sandringham, where he met with King Charles III, a meeting that was organised at the request of the UK government. Europe's leaders will next come together on Thursday in Brussels. All 27 nations will come together, including some of those who were not invited to this summit, some of the smaller nations, and some of those who are more sympathetic towards Moscow. But all of those nations will come together on Thursday in Brussels, not only to discuss Ukraine, but to discuss the security of the continent more broadly.
That's our Europe Bureau Chief Mazoe Ford reporting there from Downing Street. Well, let's go to Brisbane now, because residents in southeast Queensland are on high alert, with Tropical Cyclone Alfred forecast to make landfall sometime from Thursday. Our reporter Ariana Levy joins us now from Brisbane. Ari, there's still a bit of uncertainty around where this system is going to make landfall, but what are the main concerns this morning?
Yeah, good morning, James. Well, they're still hoping, the Bureau is hoping for more of a clearer picture as to where exactly this cyclone's track map could be towards this afternoon or even into tomorrow. But what we do know so far about Tropical Cyclone Alfred is that it remains about 390 kilometres off the coast of Queensland towards Bundaberg and still moving away from the coast. But that's all expected to change from tomorrow, when it's predicted to turn west and head straight towards the Queensland coast. Now, so far, there are early indications that it could make landfall from Thursday as a Category 2 system. And what that means is that effectively we could see this system sort of create some significant sort of turning towards us. And the Bureau has said that it's still unclear as to where exactly it could be crossing the coast. Now, we are certainly having preparations sort of underway. The main concern from authorities is that there could be that intense to heavy rainfall over the course of the multiple days. We could see anywhere from 300 millimetres to 600 millimetre rainfall total, so that is going to be a major concern. And already hearing from the Premier, David Crisafulli, who's urged residents to make sure they get their preparations underway nice and early.
We've already begun dialogue with the telecommunications to make sure that if there is the need to disseminate a large amount of messaging to a large population, that there's that extra bandwidth. But that can't be the only way that people get their advice. They've also got to go onto the disaster website, go and have a look at what the bomb's saying, talk to your neighbour.
That's the Queensland Premier who spoke to us earlier on the show. And Ari, authorities are currently searching for a Lithuanian rower who is off the Queensland coast, somewhere very close to this cyclone. Can you just tell us about that search?
Yeah, James, this is an extraordinary situation. So there is currently a search and rescue operation that's underway in the ocean at the moment for this Lithuanian rower, who is a long-distance rower that's attempted to row from San Diego in the United States all the way to Brisbane. Now, this solo quest started back in August last year, and it was cut to a halt last Friday when Aurimas Mockus, the Lithuanian rower, made an emergency call out to authorities asking for assistance. He said that he'd been fatigued, and it was about 90 kilometres west of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. So authorities and Australian Navy ship is expected to arrive at his location right now sometime this morning to provide him with assistance and help him. But certainly, given the unusual nature of this tropical cyclone, the fact that it's sort of drifted and lingered out in the ocean for so long, there are concerns, major concerns from authorities to make sure that people are keeping across and updated on the information as much as possible. And you can find all that information through the Bureau of Meteorology's website.
Good advice, Ari. All right, thank you.
Time for a look at what else is making news, and here's Charles.
Thank you, Emma. A former Defence Department Deputy Secretary says Australia must increase military spending, claiming the nation is ill-prepared for external threats. But defence experts admit this is a tough sell to voters during a cost-of-living crisis. Labor has said it will increase defence spending to more than 2.3% of the GDP, while the coalition has hinted at more defence announcements during the election campaign. House prices jumped in February, potentially signalling an end to one of the shortest and mildest property downturns on record. In unwelcome news for first home buyers, CoreLogic's Home Value Index registered a 0.3% rise nationally. In the same month, the Reserve Bank cut interest rates. The Reserve Bank will announce its next interest rate decision on the 1st of April. Israel has stopped all aid from entering Gaza in response to Hamas rejecting an extension to the temporary ceasefire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office warned of additional consequences if Hamas did not accept the terms of the extension. The militant group has labelled the decision cheap blackmail. And Hollywood's A-listers are just a couple of hours away from walking the red carpet at the 97th Academy Awards ceremony. Aussie Guy Pearce is up for a gong as Best Supporting Actor in the movie The Brutalist, which is hotly tipped to take out the award for the Best Picture. Emilia Perez is the most nominated films with 13 nods.